Hello, how is everyone doing today? My name is Elena Lopez, and today I'm going to be teaching you about three-dimensional figures. We're going to be using these geometric solids to learn about three-dimensional figures. The first one that we're going to go over is the sphere. A sphere is a round, solid figure. And real-life examples of things that are in the shape of a sphere are the Earth, the moon, a basketball, a soccer ball. All right, the next one we're going to go over is cylinder. A cylinder is a solid object with two identical flat ends that are circular. So we have two ends that are flat, and they're both circular, and we actually have two of these. Real-life examples of spheres are soda cans, salt shakers, chalk, and also a toothpick holder is in the shape of a sphere. So now we've gone over two. The next one we're going to go over is a cone. A cone is a solid object that has one circular base with a point on top. And a real-life example of this would be an ice cream cone and a birthday hat. Now we have the cube. A cube is a three-dimensional shape made of 6 equal squares. So we have 6 equal squares. And a real-life example of this is an ice cube, dice, and even a Rubik's Cube. So now that we've gone over that, we're going to go over what vertices, edges, and faces are. So a vertex is a corner. So this would be an example of a vertex, this point right here on the square. An edge is a line segment between two faces. So an example of that would be right here. We have an edge in between two faces. And a face is a single flat surface. So a face is something that you can set something on and it will stay there. So this right here is a face because it's a flat surface. We can set something on it and it's not going to fall off. This right here isn't a face because if we set something on it, it's going to fall right off. That is an edge because it is a line segment between two faces. Are there any questions so far? All right, so now we're going to look at these shapes, and we're actually going to determine how many faces, edges, and vertices that each one has. And we're going to start off with the sphere. Do you think that a sphere has any faces? No, it doesn't have any faces because a face is a single flat surface, and there's no flat surface on here. Are there any edges? No, because an edge is a line segment between two faces, which means that we would have to have faces in order to have an edge. And there are also no vertices because there aren't any corners. All right, so now we're going to move on to the cube. And we're actually going to write down over here that a sphere has 0 faces, 0 edges, and 0 vertices. All right, and we're going to move on to the cube. First, we're going to start with faces. And can anyone remind me what a face is? A face is a single flat surface. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this has 6 faces. So we're going to write down cube, 6 faces. And then we're going to look for edges. And an edge is a line segment between two faces. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12 edges. Then we're going to move on to vertice. And a vertex is a corner. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 vertices. So now we've gone over sphere and we've gone over cube. And we're going to move on to cylinder, which we have 2 cylinders, so we can really use either one for this. First, we'll go over the faces. And the face is a single flat surface. So we have one right here and one right here. So we're going to write that down. Two faces for a cylinder. And now we're going to look for edges. And an edge is a line segment between two faces. Our two faces aren't anywhere near each other. And an edge is a line segment between two. So that means that we actually don't have any edges on a cylinder. So 0 edges and vertices. A vertex is a corner, and there aren't any corners on here, any pointing corners. So we have 0 vertices. All right, so now we've gone over sphere, and we're going to move on to the last one, which is a cone. How many faces do you think that a cone has? It has one, because we have one flat surface. So we have one face. And now we're going to look for edges. We only have one face on here. So we actually don't have any edges because an edge is a line segment between faces, which means that we would have two faces to have an edge. We would need to have two faces to have an edge. So that means that we have 0 edges. And the last one is vertices. And we have one vertex, one point. So now that we've gone over faces, edges, and vertices, we're going to actually compare these shapes. And we're going to see which one has either more vertices, less vertices, more faces, less faces. So we're going to read these questions and we're going to answer them. How many more faces does a cube have than a cylinder? So we're going to find our cube and we're going to find one of our cylinders. And it's asking about faces. And the good thing is that we documented everything that we found out. So we can look at cube. A cube has 6 faces. And then we can look at a cylinder. A cylinder has 2 faces. So that means that a cube has 4 more faces than a cylinder does. So that was our first question, and we just completed that. We're going to move on to question number 2. Does a cone and a sphere have the same amount of faces? So what we're going to do is we're going to find our cone, and we're going to find our sphere. We know that a sphere has no faces. So now we just need to figure out how many faces a cone has, and a cone has 1. So that means that they don't have the same amount of faces because a sphere doesn't have any faces at all. So that completes question number 2. Question number 3 is, does a cube or a cone have more vertices? So we have to look at the number of vertices that a cube and a cone has. And a cube has 8 vertices. A cone has 1 vertex. So that means that a cube has more vertices than a cone. All right, so that answers question number 3. We're going to move on to our very last question. Out of the 4 three-dimensional shapes that we have talked about today, which one has the least faces, edges, and vertices? So we're going to have to look at all of them, and we're going to see that a cube has 6 faces, 12 edges, and 8 vertices. A cylinder has 2 faces, 0 edges, 1 vertice, and then a cone has 0 vertices, and then a cone has 1 face, 0 edges, and 1 vertex. And that means that the one that has the least amount of faces, edges, and vertices is a sphere because it has 0 of everything. Are there any questions of anything that we've gone over today? All right, so your assignment is to go home and to find something that is in the shape of one of these. So I gave you many examples. For example, a cone is the shape of a ice cream cone or even a birthday hat. So I want you to go home and find something that is in the same shape as one of these three-dimensional figures that we talked about today. All right, have a great day.